So this brings me to another topic, which is pagination. So as you may notice, right now I'm having quite a lot of blogs, and the fact is that I have many more articles which are going to be added to this blog. And this list can become really long, and very often what you see in such cases, when you have very long lists of data, you probably want to add some type of pagination so you can navigate through different pages and see the content instead of having to scroll down all the time. So how do we implement pagination in Gatsby? So you need to do a couple of things in order to add pagination. So one thing is that we need to use the gatsby-node.js file. So I'll go back here, I'll collapse everything. And as I mentioned before, Gatsby provides a bunch of configuration possibilities, so to say. And one of them is the gatsby-node.js file, which you can use in order to extend the overall behavior of your pages and so on. So I want to work with this API to create Pages API right now. And I want to extend it so that I can create what's called listing page. So I will have listing pages. So let's say right now we're in the /blog. So if I say /blog/2, then I want to go to the page 2 of my blog posts. So I want to have pages more or less. So the way that we can achieve this is to go to the actual API, so to say, for creating pages. And here we see that I'm just creating a bunch of pages here. But I also want to extend it. So I will paste in some code here at the bottom, and I will go through what it does. So this is the block that I will paste right now, like that. So if we read this code, we see that I am creating listing pages. So I'm getting all the posts, which is the same as this, right? I'm saving that to a variable, and I'm also setting the posts per page. So I'm only going to show 3 posts per page. And I also want to calculate the number of pages that I will get. So by taking the length of the amount of posts and divide that by the posts per page, you'll get the number of pages. And then I just want to loop through an array which has that amount of items. And this is a really cool, neat thing that you can do in JavaScript. I will basically show you what it does so you can understand it. I will open the console and I will bring it in here, and I hope you can see it. So like this, I will clear the console and I will say 5. And what you see here is that you get an array of 5 empty items, or basically undefined items, which is perfect because we're only interested in an array so that we can loop through anything 5 times, and then we can do things with them. And what's cool in JavaScript is that when you use the for each, you get the item which is undefined in our case, so we don't need it, we're ignoring it, but we're interested in the index, so 0, 1, 2, and so on. And this will represent the page number, more or less. But we know that the page number is the index plus 1. So if we're at the first page, we don't want the page number to be 0, right? So we want it to be 1. So that's why we increment it. And we set the path. So if it's the first page, then we actually want to have /blog, because we don't want to have /1 or something. We want /blog to be the first page. And if it's not the first page, then we want to basically add /blog/ the page number. And we also want the component to be a blog list, which I haven't created yet. And also the context object. This is one of the important things to keep in mind. because this object is what can be used to provide variables in the GraphQL query. So this is really powerful, and a thing that you will not only see in the GraphQL query, but also this will be available in the props in the actual component. So let me just save this. And also it's yelling at me that I need to restart the development server. I will do that in a moment. I just want to go through what these properties are going to do. So the limit and the skip, these two are going to be used in the GraphQL query, which I will show you in a minute. And the limit property, what it does is basically I want to set the limit of posts that I want to read with GraphQL to that posts per page. So for one post or for one page, for each page, I just want to read the posts for that specific page. And the skip is basically how many posts do I want to skip. So I want to have 5 posts only, but I don't want to have the 5 first posts, right? So I want to skip a bunch of posts which I'm not interested in, because maybe let's say if I'm on the page 3 and I want to read out the 3 pages for that, the 3 posts for that page, then I can simply say I, which is the index of 2, so that's 2 times 3, which is 6. So I want to skip the first 6 posts because those belong to the page 1 and page 2. I'm not interested in those. So it's basically a way to get the post that the page is concerned with. And let me just save this and restart the server. So that will take a while. So now the server is running, but it's yelling at me because it's saying that I created a page with a component that doesn't exist. And that's completely true because this component does not exist yet. So let me add it. So in the source templates, I will add a new file, which I will say blog-list.js. I will create a functional component quickly, like that. I will say blog list, yeah, and I will say blog list for now. So the server is closed and I have to restart it again. So this time the build was successful because it found the component. So if I just try this out, I think I want to close this and open it again, like that. And I will go to the blog posts. And okay, so right now it's yelling at me. And if I go to /2, it gives me the blog list. So we have 2 things to keep in mind here. Let's focus on the 2 because I'm not really concerned with the blog page right now, since it's trying to override it and there's a conflict going on right now, so we're not concerned with that at the moment. But let's focus on the actual blog list, because what we're seeing in front of us is that the blog list component, the template that I just created, is actually being rendered now, which means that it should have you should be able to read the actual posts for that page. So in the blog list, I need to add a query, GraphQL queries. I'll just paste it in and I'll show you what it does. And I will also provide this code, so you can use this, and you can basically clone the repository and use the code later on. But let's look at this right now. So we have this GraphQL query, and we see that we have 2 variables, and these are the variables that we provided the page through the gatsby-node file. So the limit will be the post per page, and the skip will be this. And this is awesome because now we're getting the actual data that we need, and we can also, I can just take in the props and I can just log out the props so you can see what we actually get, and it's quite interesting. So let me open the console again. and here we have the props, and we have the data, and we see that we only get 3 blocks, and it's actually the 3 first blocks, or actually the blogs posts that belong to page 2. So this is actually great. And one thing that we also see is that we have the page context. So we see that we're on the current page, we see that we're on the page 2, we see the limit, we see the number of pages, and we can use this data when we build our pagination, so to say. And yeah, I mean, this is really useful information. So now that we've provided this, let me start working with that data and building the actual list. So one thing I need to do is I need to basically use some destructuring, or before that, let me go to the pages and basically steal this template, because it's basically the same thing. I want to use this in my other template, so I'll just steal this JSX because it's the same thing. And here I will return this, and of course this won't work because there's a lot of things that we don't have, so we need to take all of this because we need that. And also the posts is not correct at the moment because we don't have that variable yet. But I will, instead of taking in the props, I will take in properties out of the props. So I know that we have the data property, I know that there is the page context property, and the posts will be data.all markdown remark.edges, and this is the issue here is that we have objects with the property of node, so I'll need to do the map on that. So each edge should return the edge.node, and the reason why I know that is because, as you see here, we have the edges and we have the node property. So yeah, I want to map that so that I only get the node. And I also want to have the current page and the number of pages, because that's crucial information in a pagination system. So the current page and the num pages, I will destructure that from the page context object. And I also want to have a bunch of booleans which will control or check if we're on the first page or the last page. So if it's the first, then I know that if the current page is 1, right? So this is how I determine if the current page is the first page. And the last page is if the current page is the same as the number of pages. And also, I need to build paths for the actual for the previous page and the next page. So the previous page path, this is not pretty code, but we can always refactor it later on. But the way it works is that if the current page -1 is 1, so basically if we're going to if the previous page will be the first page, then we should set it to /blog/, else we will set it to /blog/ plus the current page -1, and we will make that into a string. So this is not pretty, I have to admit, but it works, and I will go back and fix that later on. I will make sure that you understand what it is. So basically, we're checking if the previous page will be the first page. I just want the path to be /blog, and otherwise I want it to be /blog/ the page number. Basically, that's all it does. And the same goes for the next page. That's simpler because that's only this part here, so it's not as complicated. And actually, one important difference is that we don't want to decrement it, but we want to increment it, so +1. because it's the next page, right? And also one thing, well, let me just work with this at the moment. So at the bottom of the actual article, I want to have a link, which is the previous, so link to the prev page path, right? And I'll add the relative property too, and I'll say I want a left arrow, and it will say previous page. And I'll want to duplicate this line, and I'll say next page path, and that will be a right arrow. It will have the relative attribute of next, and I'll say next page. And the build is failing because it doesn't have the blog list modules. I'll just take it from here, and I will copy it into this place. So now it's not yelling at me anymore, which is great. I can close this because I will work with this pretty soon. But if we go back here, we see that this is actually working. So if you look at the bottom here, you see that it's pointing to /blog, it's pointing to blog 3. And if I click on it, we see that it's actually working. So it's actually pointing to the different pages, which is great. But one thing you'll notice now is that it keeps on going to the 5th page, which we don't have. So we need to prevent this, and the same goes if I go to the first one. Yeah, this is not even correct either because we don't have the 0. So we need to prevent this in some way, and I will do that by simply, I don't want to hide the button if it's not present, meaning that if you don't have a previous page, you don't want to hide it, but you want to disable it. So I will use some CSS to fix this right now. So what I can do is I can add the class name, like this, and I will say prev page class name, and I'll do the same with the next. So I will say next page class name, and I also want to set this. So basically here I have to create those path or those class names. So I'll say the prev page class name. If it's the first page, then I want it to be the disabled button class name. Otherwise, it should just be a regular button class name. Now I'll duplicate this line. I will say next page, and this is the opposite. So if it's the last, then I want to disable it. Otherwise, I just want to make it a normal button. And if I go to the actual CSS file, I need to do some add some CSS here. So we have this since before. We don't need this. Or we need it, but we don't need to do anything with it. And now I need to add a bunch of classes. So these class names should have, actually I only need these 2 right now. So I'll say, first of all, I want the decoration, text decoration to be none because it's the default look of links, which I don't like. I need to have some margin. I need to have some basically some background color. I want to have a white color, and I want some padding too. So nothing crazy about that. And one thing that I need to add to the disable button is that it should have the pointer events of none. And this is really crucial because one thing about links, the way links work in HTML, is that you can't really disable a link. There is no disabled attribute on a link. You can disable buttons, but you can't disable links. So we need to simulate the disable functionality by setting this pointer events to none. And I will show you what it will do. I just need to fix some of the color with this class. So I'll say 999 and DDD. So it kind of looks like it's disabled. And if we go back, now we see that I'm on the first page. There is no previous page, and that's why I can't click on it. And we see that it's kind of disabled. So if I keep on moving, I go to the next page. Now we're at the last. There is no next page, and this becomes disabled. And the thing that is interesting with this is that pointer events basically deletes or removes any kind of interactivity with this element. So you can't click on it. It won't react to any events. You can't do anything with it. It's almost like it has no functionality at all. In fact, you can't even change the cursor on it. So it's completely out of the game, so to say. So I like this much. This is working pagination for me. But I also want to add page numbers, because sometimes, even though you see that there are different pages, you might want to know how many pages there are, and there's nothing that will tell you how many pages we actually have. So I want to extend the functionality of this pagination system. So in the blog list, it's quite simple actually to extend that. So between the arrows, I want to add a bunch of page numbers. So between these two links, I want to loop. I basically want to use the same thing that I did before with the array.from. So I'll say array.from, and I will provide a length of my array, which will be the number of pages, right? So it will be, for instance, 5. And now I want to basically loop through this array. So I have the index and I have the item, which is undefined. So I don't need that. But here is one thing I want to look for. So I want to have the page number link. Page number, yeah, let's just say page number. Class name, let's say that styles.page number. And I'll check if the current page is the first one, meaning it's I+1. So if it's the first page, or actually it's not, if it's the current page basically. So if the actual number is the current page, then I want to highlight that, right? So I'll say the page number class name will be styles.current page number. And I will return some JSX. So I will have the link, which will basically be a number, right? So it will be the current number. So that's I+1, the page number. And I need to provide the class name. So that's the page number class name, right? And I also want to have a key, because in React, you usually want to have a key that can be I+1. And I also want to point to that page, right? So you should be able to click on it. And here we need some logic. So I will just create a function which will be get page number path. Okay, and I will pass in the index. I need to create this function. So if I go up here, I can say const get page number path, which will be the current index. And here I will check if the current index is 0, meaning that it's the first page, then I want to return /blog, right? Otherwise, I just want to return /blog/ plus the current index +1. So this is just a simple way to get the actual path. So let's see if this will work. I think that this is the wrong place to do it because I'm in the wrong scope. So I need to cut this out and put it right here actually. So now it's being used because it has the correct context. If I save the file now, I shouldn't be getting any errors. Yes, I'm not getting any errors. And now we actually see the numbers. I can also click on them, but they're not looking pretty at the moment. So I need to fix some styling with them. So if we go back to the CSS file, here's the CSS file. I need to add two. Actually, what I can do is I can basically use the same. I can share the same properties. So I'll say page number and the current page number. They should have the same style as this, so this should be applied to those two as well. But I also want to have additional styling to the current page number. So I want the background color to be unique. So I'll just say blue violet. And I also want the pointer events to be none, because you don't want to click on the current page number, right? Because it won't point you anywhere. You're already on that page. So if you look at it now it looks much better, because now you can see that you're on the third page. If I click on 2, you see that this one is the current page. So I can click on each one of them, and I see that if I go on the first page, this one becomes disabled. If I go on the fourth page, this one becomes disabled. So this is a functioning pagination system that I'm really happy with. I really like it, and I can go to the actual posts and I can go back. Maybe I should have a button that points me back to it, or I can just click here. But yeah, I'm really happy with this blog at the moment. So I think I will stop here, and in the upcoming video I will look into how we can add search functionality to the blog, because that's one of the core things that you want to have in a blog. You want to be able to search for posts. So thanks for watching, guys.